welcome to the garden. This is a crocus, and it has these little grass-like leaves. They come up really early in spring, and these were the first flowers that we got this year. I think they dropped another one right over here. So they can spread just by producing seeds. But if you have to move these, now is really the time, because these little grass-like leaves will actually die back very soon. If they didn't flower for you, they're probably not in the best location. So we actually have a couple that we need to move out into a better spot. A lot of these are producing more greens than the ones that actually flowered. So I think they're just trying to soak up that sunlight so they can get enough energy to produce flowers, but it's not very likely that they will. There were quite a few plants under the leaf litter, more than I expected. So because we have so many, I'm not going to actually uproot the plants. I'm going to take just a big chunk of soil out with all of the plants in it. That'll give them a much better chance of surviving. So I'm just going to cut a big circle around these. There we go. I'm taking any roots that came along with it. So we've preserved the entire cluster here, and we can actually do the same thing with all of these. This one had roots all the way down about 6 inches, so they actually drive down pretty deep. But they do look really healthy besides not flowering. But really these all should be flowering right now. So by putting them in a warmer spot with more sun, they should spring into flower maybe even later this year. That would be wonderful. These two little ones had strayed off a little bit from the pack, so I just took them out to show you guys the bulbs. They look like little onions. So these were actually pretty deep underground. So when I go to bury these, I want to be mindful of where they were so that we can protect them from frost. I found a couple more, and look at the size of this one. It's just tiny. I absolutely love it. So I think I'm going to have to just completely bury this one because it's not even tall enough to where I can bury it to a safe depth. But I think I've got them all now. You can see we've torn up quite a bit of earth because there were a lot more than I was expecting. We got this entire basket full of crocus. So let's go plant these out. So I'll probably plant some over here by this crocus, but I think over here is better. These were the first to come up because they have tons of sun. So this is the first one that came up, which to me says that it's in the best location. So I'm working in kind of a line, a couple feet out from the road, and we're just going to do a whole bunch. We need them of a certain depth, so I've kind of done an average of about 5 inches maybe. And I've actually started to split up some of our bulbs, especially the ones that were just strays. not in big clusters, it's really easy to split them up and spread them out over a greater distance. So we can do a whole bunch along here and have a nice line of crocus. So some of these are already little individual bulbs, but others we can kind of pull apart, just like onions. Just be extremely careful. You might even want to submerge them in water, but they pull apart and then we can space them out like this. Planting them at the depth that they were planted before, which can be a little tricky on some of these little ones, but I'm just going to take my time and just barely cover them. So this one's still sticking out of the ground just like that. It's just about perfect. It's kind of surprising how deep they need to go. But then again, they gotta survive that frost. And they really take advantage of that first spring warmth. They have a gradient from like green to yellow to white. So everything that's yellow was probably underground or at least under mulch. There we go. Then we can just kind of mulch around if we want. So I'll do them all basically just like this. We'll do a little row extending this way, and maybe some extending back this way too. So what was a couple plants in a less than ideal location are now a huge row that extends all the way down here, and they're in a much better location. So we have a great chance of getting all of these to flower. And just a minute ago I actually saw my first bumblebee of the season. I sprinted for the camera, but he was gone in a flash, so I missed him. But they're definitely out and about. All that's left now is to water these in. So we've moved all the crocus, and they've gone from a downhill slope facing away from the sun to a nice uphill slope facing towards the sun. So they're going to get a lot more heat. I think that's important because the ones that are flowering are facing towards the sun. So I actually managed to plant a whole bunch. I've got 5 little ones out by this purple guy, and then we have a dozen or so more out in the front. So hopefully by moving our crocus to much sunnier locations, we can get more blooms like this one. So if you've got crocus in a shady spot in your garden, I hope you give this a grow. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.